Mark's parents, Hermann and Hannah Muller, were lucky to escape from Nazi Germany in August of 1938. They arrived in New York City, grateful to be alive, with a total of $90 in their pockets, a work ethic, and their dreams. They found a place to live in the Bronx where Mark was born on the 4th of July, 1939. The Mullers had no idea that the 4th of July was America's Independence Day, but they did know that nearby at Yankee Stadium there was a special celebration as the team and fans said farewell to the retiring Lou Gehrig. Mark, who became a huge sports fan, savored the story he learned later of Lou standing before an admiring crowd and famously saying, "I'm the luckiest man alive
on the face of the earth."
Reflecting on life with his family and on his career in the law, what he's been able to achieve, and the worthy friends he's made along the way, Mark could well echo Lou Gehrig's sentiments this very day. After the Muller family moved to Manhattan, Mark grew up in a crowded street-level apartment in Washington Heights that barely accommodated him, his parents, and 2 younger siblings. His preferred way in and out of that apartment was through the front window. He went to the local public school, learned what he was supposed to, but lived to play ball. Basketball was played with the hoop being the lowest rung of a fire escape ladder, but 2 sewers was the real game of choice. It was stickball played in the street. If your ball was smacked beyond 2 sewers, you got an automatic home run. Mark was a good student, although he misbehaved often enough that his mother was quoted as saying that she sometimes thought she had her own chair in the principal's office. In high school, he was elected as school president and excelled on the track team, winning many gold medals. He liked studying history and politics especially. And as for his decision to study law, Mark has explained that his plan to become a lawyer was inspired first in the 1950s by watching the Army McCarthy hearings and seeing Joseph Welch, special counsel for the Army, take on Senator Joseph McCarthy. Let us not assassinate this lad further, Senator.
Look, you've done enough. Have you no sense of decency, sir? At long last, have you left no sense of decency?
Welch's performance at the hearings provided a lesson for Mark about the power that practitioners of the law could wield to expose and right wrongs. Mark earned a college scholarship from New York State and applied it toward his Cornell University tuition. The balance of his tuition came from his earnings as a summer waiter in the Borscht Belt in the Catskill Mountains. After his junior year at Cornell, Mark was admitted to Cornell Law School. He received his JD degree in 1963. By that time, he had also acquired a wife, Sheila Stahl, a Cornell co-ed who, he says, put him to the chase. She supported him with her salary as a school teacher until he got his first paycheck as a lawyer. He returned the favor years later when she pursued a law degree of her own. Mark's first job as a lawyer was with a firm that had 2 departments, real estate and everything else. He was assigned to the everything else division, where he was engaged in a broad range of litigation and international transactions. His first aviation case involved a single-engine beach accident that caused the death of the artist Robert Smithson, who was surveying land from the air for a commission to create an earthwork sculpture. When Mark thought that he had the case about ready for trial, he asked Lee Kreinler, known to him only by his name on the spine of the aviation accident law text, if he would be willing to review his work and offer any advice. Just about the time of that meeting, a major crash occurred of a Turkish Airlines DC-10, in which 357 lives were lost. That disaster prompted Lee to ask Mark, "How would you like to work on a case like this one?" A few weeks later, Mark joined the Kreinler firm and became involved in what up to that time was the most heavily contested and complicated case in civil aviation history. Over the years that followed, Mark continued to champion the rights of victims of aviation disasters and produce substantial recoveries for his clients. For example, the Pan Am Karachi hijacking case in 1986, the Continental Airlines Stapleton Denver takeoff icing accident in 1987, the Avianca Airlines Flight 052 fuel exhaustion case near JFK in 1990, the American Airlines 965 crash on approach to Cali, Colombia, and many other charter, helicopter, and military airplane crash cases. In 2001, within days of the September 11th attack, Congress passed legislation to protect the airlines and ensure that the victims' families would receive compensation. Ken Feinberg was appointed as special master to administer the fund and promised fairness, which he ultimately delivered.
I think the major flaw in the program was the decision by Congress to tie it to the civil justice litigation system.
Mark recommended a compensation structure that Feinberg accepted for the firemen, without which the fund in all likelihood would not have succeeded.
What I want to see is that victims' compensation fund formula is not copied in a way that impairs the normal working of our judicial system. That if you're hurt by somebody, you go into court. You prove your accountability. You have a jury or a judge decide what you're entitled to.
And for the small number of families who chose to sue the airlines, Mark's advocacy enhanced their claims and led to the defeat of the airline's motion to dismiss the ground victims and property damage claims. Mark's litigation successes have not been limited to aviation cases. In the mid-'80s, for instance, he took on a series of cases for children and adults who contracted paralytic polio after being given the live oral poliovirus vaccine, or who had come into contact with someone who had been vaccinated. Lawsuits were begun against the vaccine manufacturer and the U.S. government, asserting their responsibility for marketing a vaccine that did not meet federal regulatory safety standards. The manufacturers settled, but the U.S. government resisted. Mark's ultimate victory at the end of a lengthy and highly technical trial was affirmed by the Fourth Circuit in a landmark decision. Through the years, Mark has carved out time for involvement in civic and political causes. In 1982, for example, soon after Anwar Sadat was assassinated in Egypt and Hosni Mubarak assumed power, Mark and several other delegates met with Mubarak with the blessing of the U.S. State Department and elicited his public no more war commitment, meaning that he would maintain Sadat's peace agreement between Egypt and Israel, which contributed to Israel's willingness to return the Sinai to Egypt. In 1999, just before his 60th birthday, Mark embarked on the adventure of climbing to an altitude of more than 18,000 feet on Mount Everest in Nepal, just above base camp. Why climb Everest? Life is not a dress rehearsal, Mark has been known to say, by which he means that you only get one chance to live life, so you'd better do it fully. Of course, Mark is aware that the greatest challenge, way trickier and more critical to life than success on Everest or in the courtroom, is making the effort it takes to sustain a long-term relationship with a partner, in this case his college sweetheart, and together to create and nurture a family. Some victories in this arena to report: 50 plus years of marriage to one Cornell co-ed, 3 children, 2 in-law children, and 7 grandchildren who all love him. Mark believes that the rich rewards of life in his family have contributed to his understanding of the issues confronting the people he has represented during his decades as a practicing attorney, and to motivating him to do his part to make the world a safer and better place. Mark's devotion to his kids now extends to his grandkids. He's a regular presence at their school events and sports games, cheering them on. He reads to them, tells them ingenious stories that he makes up, and takes them on one-on-one outings. Whenever he asks them the now familiar question of his, "Guess what?" each one always knows that the correct answer is, "You still love me." They are right, and they are lucky, and so is Mark. And so I should add, am I lucky to be Mark's younger daughter, Alexandra.